Hi, Danielle.
Hi, Mel.
Well, we've got a nice introduction to do, haven't we? We're looking at the tarot series that we're going to do over the next few months.
Yep.
And for anyone who's listening, this is an introduction to the tarot series looking at the major arcana and really helping people understand the concepts of the tarot and that it's not as scary as we think it is. And actually, it's real use and the psychology that sits behind that, and how we can apply that in everyday life, whether that is understanding how to use the whole set of cards or to pull cards out, and how to get a deeper understanding and how that relates to maybe what's going on for us right now in the subconscious mind, and using the cards to elicit that information. So I'm going to hand it over to you because you're going to talk us through that. So I'm interested to hear how we're going to do this over the next few weeks.
Well, I want to kind of give just a breakdown of the major arcana as it is, and kind of just the background history of it so that we understand why we're moving forward in the way that we are through the psychology aspect of what we can do using this deck of cards. The major arcana tarot cards represent the life lessons, karmic influences, and the big archetypal themes that are influencing your life and your soul's journey to enlightenment. The major arcana card meanings are deep and complex. These tarot cards represent the structure of human consciousness and hold the keys to life lessons passed down through centuries. Major arcana, I call them major arcana, and then Mel said, how does this pronounce? And so I looked it up. So I'm trying, it's major arcana.
So now we're saying it both ways.
I'm trying really hard to pronounce it the correct way now. The major arcana typically means greater secrets. So as Mel pointed out in the beginning, by greater secrets, we mean traveling more into the subconscious mind, where we hold this plethora of beautiful wisdom inside of us. And by going through the major arcana, you're able to really tap into that deeper wisdom. The major arcana is also known as the trump cards. They include 21 numbered cards and one unnumbered card, and that card's the Fool. Its position is 0. The Fool is the main character of the major arcana and makes his journey through each of the cards, meeting new teachers and learning new life lessons along the way, eventually reaching the completion of his journey with the World card. This is known as the Fool's Journey and is a helpful way of understanding the storyline of the major arcana tarot card meanings. These are divided into 2 separate arcana. The tarot tells the story of human experience using archetypal symbolism, numerology, and elemental meanings. The major arcana in particular speaks to what Carl Jung termed the universal subconscious. Each of the 22 cards symbolizes a different portion of the psyche, leading the current on a spiritual journey from division to wholeness. On the path of the major arcana, the seeker faces various trials and tribulations, which eventually lead to the understanding and individuation. The journey of the major arcana is translated into the story of you. Replacing the Fool with you allows the experience to become more personal. And on that note, I thought I would take the opportunity to read the Fool's Journey so that we can lead into kind of what we're going to be doing on this, 22 card workshop we're going to be putting out for everybody. So here's the story of the Fool. Beginning with the number 0, the first character we will meet and follow throughout the major arcana is the Carefree Fool. He appears in many decks clothed in a white tunic, flower in hand, and feet dangerously close to the precipice. On the surface, the Fool appears unaware and dim, but in tarot, his actions and personality take on a different light. With the Fool, we have the point between points, the power of the present moment. He is unaware and thusly unafraid to face the perilous journey before him. It is the Fool's innocence and the openness that make the adventure possible. The first 2 characters he encounters are the Magician and the High Priestess. The Magician represents pure dynamic masculine energy and a willingness to project oneself out into the world. This is a card of harnessing one's abilities towards the alchemical transformation of self or experience. The high priestess, on the other hand, represents the pure feminine energy of the incubation and arcane knowledge. She sits patiently at the gates of Solomon's temple, guarding the secrets of divine power. The high priestess embodies the mysterious element of femininity and intuition, the intangible yet powerful forces that explore the realms of magic. Now that the Fool has met his own personal masculine and feminine aspects, he meets the external embodiment of these characters. The Empress and the Emperor can be approached as the parents of the Fool, the earthly counterparts of the Magician and the High Priestess. As the mother of the Fool, the Empress is loving, abundant, and giving. She is the feminine provider who feeds and nurtures her subjects. The Emperor holds the energy of the Father, creating firm foundations and boundaries in the external world. He protects his realm, building walls to encase the softness of the Empress. These parental figures instill their knowledge on the young Fool, defining his ideas of boundaries and security. But the Fool must leave the safety net of home. So next he encounters the dogma and structured world of the Hierophant. Here, knowledge is passed down from heaven to earth through the lens of hierarchy and teaching with a strong emphasis on religious institutions. Next, the Fool learns the power of choice, symbolized by the Lover's card. It is the first instance where the Fool begins to realize that his future is in his own hands and that his decisions will shape his path. Now that the Fool has been educated, he must take this knowledge and apply it to the real world. The Chariot is his graduation, a sign that he has the necessary knowledge to embark upon the adventure. From here, he meets his first challenge, strength. The Fool must overcome his base qualities by realizing that mind over matter is at times the best solution to a problem. From the trial of strength, the Fool is thrown into the introspective world of the hermit. Alone with his own thoughts and removed from the world, the Fool realizes that life is in some ways a game to be played. The Wheel of Fortune appears next, as if the knowledge acquired by the hermit is suddenly manifest. Life is a series of riddles and twisting turns, moved by both fate and choice, where one day things are up and the next day things are down. The Fool comes to terms with this wild ride through the assumptions of the Justice card, where decisions are measured and enacted through a fair trial. But often enough, life is not so black and white. Soon the Fool finds himself in the quandary of the hanged man, suspended between two worlds in order to find a new perspective. It is from this discomfort that he realizes that he once took as blind truth is in fact the beliefs and ideas of his former teachers. The Death card appears to free him from these falsehoods, clearing away the words of the Emperor, Empress, Hierophant, and even the child the Fool once was. The Fool is forever changed by his experience, and his new understanding is embodied by the angel of the Temperance card. Here we have a deeper spiritual understanding, where emotion is regulated and a middle path is forged between extremes. But with this newfound clarity, the hidden blind spots within the Fool himself are revealed, taking shape as the devil. Emerging from the darkness, the devil speaks to the unconscious urges of the psyche, which manifests as addiction and attachment. Luckily, this level of tension and manipulation is short-lived, released by the shock and awe of the tower. With a lightning bolt from heaven, the walls of the Fool's inner world crumble, allowing for growth and renewal of the star. The star is one of the most magical and hopeful moments on the Fool's journey, where healthy new ideas are planted and a divine assistance flows freely from heaven. Yet this level of transcendence still has its own shadow. The profound and psychic moon appears, reminding the Fool of all that is uncontrollable and mysterious. The moon moves the tides of the ocean and the cycles of women, causing both the wild wolf and the tame dog to howl. But night does not last forever, and the Fool's journey is also nearing its end. The sun rises once more, and with it comes the promise of homecoming and return. The Fool finds himself at the gates of his ancestral castle, ready to reveal all that he has learned during his travels. The Judgment card is that revelation, where anything left unsaid is dealt with and the final inner work is completed. The world represents the end of this journey, while also hinting at the cycle that is yet to come. This is one of the deepest aspects of the wisdom that the tarot holds. Life is an endless circle, a chance to learn and grow through experience. As long as we inhabit bodies on the earth plane, there will be lessons to discover and conquer. Luckily, there are tools such as the tarot to help us understand ourselves, the world around us, and help best to thrive on our own archetypal journey. In many ways, tarot is a medieval equivalent to contemporary tools of psychology, such as the Rorschach or Tat test. The cards can be an aid to psychological awareness and spiritual development, acting as a guide along your path.
It's it's fascinating. We were talking last week, weren't we? That I found it fascinating when you sent me the information about the Fool's Journey and the steps that they go through, and how for a lot of people who are interested in spiritual and esoteric practices are looking towards this idea of evolving or transcendence, which is linked with like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is the psychology of it. But the idea of what we've been doing is about bringing this into practical use and reality, isn't it? Of like exactly what you said is how do you use a tarot to understand yourself, and how do you start to be able to interpret the symbols? And one of the beautiful things of this is that different tarot readers will interpret different imagery and colors and information in the cards, but understanding the sort of how we start on that journey as the Fool. And I think you were alluding earlier to that being the inner child potentially, who takes this innocent path at the start of the journey and goes through those processes. And we're looking at that and bringing forward the keys of our ancestors that have equally been on the journey before. And when you look at all of that and the psychology behind it and all the different people have been involved in, how do we help ourselves understand ourselves better so that we can make more informed choices and not get into cycles and patterns that are unhealthy for us or that don't work for us anymore? We can actually look at where we're at on that journey, understand ourselves better, and move forward.
You understand yourself by understanding the journey. And when you know that this is a cyclical journey, and every completion you start back at the Fool card, but this time you're the Fool with a little bit more knowledge. You're the Fool with a few more tools in your belt. Around the world.
Go around the cycle again, which is what we've covered, isn't it, on other podcasts of we may have had this similar experience, but we've now got tools to manage that when we go in the workplace and have a difficult situation. We've had those situations before, and we don't want to end up in the same position, so we apply the new tools that we have learned in that process.
That's right. Yeah, tarot is a really amazing way, and I think we were just discussing this of for the layman, for the person that doesn't have the psychology background, the person that hasn't done an extensive research on the subconscious mind, a lot like me. I learned, I had my basics, maybe a little bit more than the norm, because psychology's always, been very cool for me. I've always been very interested in learning more about it. But, I really learned the depths of who I am through tarot cards, through oracle cards, through divination. And inside of this, if you take the moment to really grasp the depth of what tarot is trying to show you and not take it at face value and really try to start the questions, the why, who, what, where, when, and how. And you're tapping into these unlimited potentials, these unlimited resources within yourself. And it's simply by playing a card game. And as you play these card games, you're walking yourself into the subconscious. You're, through imagery, through thought pattern, through, researching, and it really takes you on this amazing journey of self. And when used correctly, and for me, by what I mean by that is we need to use tarot for self and tarot for, less external things in our world and more about how I can handle the external world, then you're going to really take these deck of cards and make them into something really personal, really divine in nature, and really psychologically sound in the way that we do it. And it's funny because at the beginning of these, as you throw your cards out and you're in the newer stages, you know, you read them at face value. You're really just trying to grasp its concepts. But this is how we work in psychology as well, right? We're just getting layer by layer to the deeper stuff. So, you know, we're just here to kind of over the course of the 22 videos that we're going to do over these is kind of allow you the insight on how these cards work for you psychologically, so that you can use them for their greatest purpose, which is for you to find your best self and go live your best existence and really work through these traumas, or at least be aware of the traumas and the triggers that you're working through. So then you can either seek help or really, you know, do some of that shadow work within yourself and work through this process. And, you know, the cards really have changed my life, and I'm a full supporter in what they're capable of, you know?
Yeah. And I think it sort of moves us away, because I think this is the direction that a lot of people who listen to anybody who's doing spiritual podcasts, it's moving us away from looking externally for somebody else to tell us what might happen next and what's going on in our lives. And two other processes kick in, because when you start to apply yourself sort of psychologically to learning about the thing, the object, and in this case it's the card, is you start to learn how you're seeing it. So that's about your perspective, but also you're right, it's imagery, as we know through art and art therapy. It's about bridging the unconscious and the conscious mind. So it creates the capacity for the mind to do that, to bring information forward. So even if you pick one of those cards up and you either use your own book to read it, or you tune in, because different people will do that different ways.
There's not a wrong way to do it.
Yeah. So, and you can even just look at the picture, because it may be that the colors stand out, or the energy of the card stands out, or the scenery, or the buildings, or the interactions that are taking place for ones that have got more going on in them. And then you can sort of notice that, because over time as well, when you pick up cards again, it may be that you get a totally different impression of them. But this is really constantly about going back to self, isn't it? And going back into your own knowing, and allowing your own knowing, your own, and it's almost like giving, I'd imagine, giving your unconscious mind and your body system, your body, mind, spirit system, permission to start working for you.
For permission to come online. And as you said, we've got this internal bridge, and we're just using an external resource to help solidify, or at least, or find that internal bridging between mind, body, and soul, because we are quite capable of being very self-aware, and being, you know, knowing that we know we have the most wisdom for ourselves and our journey than any external factor could bring. And there are expert card readers everywhere. There's these amazing readers that have really taught me a lot about card meanings, you know, if you couple them together. But I noticed that when I go into my expertise with cards, it always came down to the sense of self, the psychological, the subconscious, the understanding what these represent in your world in a deeper way. And we're all very deserving of having something in our existence that's both interactive, easy to use, and you can walk away a million times better than you walked in. And you can do this as often as you want. There's not really a limit on how often you can give yourself a read. You know, you're going to get exhausted if you read all day, but you know, it takes energy at the beginning. But yeah, this is just a really helpful psychological tool that I feel is underused. And there's also a lot of confusion around its uses. This isn't really and it can be, but we're not teaching you how to find your perfect match. We're trying to find our perfect us, who we are, and the divinity that is us. And then that perfect match will just find its way
Will
to
arrive
you.
anyway.
Exactly. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of, and however we want to use it, if you want to use it as an external tool, it eventually comes inside. It's just a matter of, which way are we going to step? And I'm always from sense of self and out. And this is how we're going to be teaching this, this workshop. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really exciting though, because like I said, I've experienced tarot cards in multiple ways and used them myself and dabbled. And I started last year with the pack I've got, and that was the other thing. I didn't like one of the packs I got, and I changed it, and it was different. And I'd choose cards, and then I'd look up the meaning, and then I would, whatever came to mind, whatever feelings came up, I would journal them. And so journaling again is that extra other layer that you can bring on.
Everything in spirituality tells you to journal or to write.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. It materializes it. It solidifies things. It puts it into stone kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I really look forward to this whole series. And I know that you're going to go in depth in terms of the card, in terms of the general meaning, but also the meaning in terms of using your own knowing, because this is what this is about. And I'm going to pepper it throughout with whatever psychology comes up at the time, because there's so many crossovers. And that
there really is.
There's so many crossovers in the psychology tests that you talked about, and Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and Carl Jung's archetypes, and the global connected consciousness and unconscious, which I think if any time is more relevant, it's now.
It's now.
We can collectively do that. So it's a tool to use individually, but it's also mindfully how we navigate navigate our life and our experiences. So thank you for that. That was a really great introduction.
Excellent. Can't wait.